this is really about robots and how they could colonize our space. Now, what I would say is it's something that, humans, we can build things, but imagine if we could make robots that are self-replicating and could expand throughout our world, solar system, and beyond into the galaxy. And if they had the ability to self-replicate in the same way that the same way that our cells are able to replicate and have, for example, ways of correcting themselves, right? So when DNA, when it makes a mistake, it has mechanisms to correct itself. And so, life is amazing in that it's very self-sustaining, but it's also self-correcting, and it's able to kind of do it on its own. And imagine if we could create robots that had those same properties, right? The same ability to replicate itself and to correct itself, and then to start making choices. And so I was thinking maybe a robot could, colonize could begin sort of the colonization of the solar system and beyond. And by doing this, we can have sort of constructions made that we wouldn't have to do them, and it would expand, and it would kind of exponentially grow. So really, as humans, we wouldn't have to do all the work. It could be something that robots could do. Now, as far as, imagine, for example, that a robot, if for it to do this, it would be good if it had a brain. And if we were able to somehow be able to replicate or create a recreation of the human brain. So we know that the human brain is intelligent and is able to think and reason. So imagine if sort of robots were given a brain. Now you could go down the path where a robot is given sort of a literal organic brain, maybe like in a glass enclosure, and perhaps have a brain actually controlling a robot and having it learn and understand things through observations. But another option is if we could understand how the brain works and be able to recreate that through inorganic means. So in that sense, what I mean is having it be made of, whether through electricity, right? So some mechanical way of recreating the brain, or if that's not possible, maybe through other ways, like using quantum understandings. So, understanding the very small, the way that atoms work. That could be another way of solving the problem. But, I was thinking another way would be just using some other form of communication, because ultimately a brain is about communication. And so all you need is to be able to get feedback and give back, give inputs and outputs back and forth, because that's kind of what our brain does, right? It just goes back and forth between the neurons, or our understanding. We're constantly sort of switching between one idea and another. And so, the ability to do that, oftentimes, a computer, when computers came out, And they were described as brains, right? Even though they were electronic based and they were based on ones and zeros, right? Which is what computers are made with today. So imagine if we were able to recreate that, but in other ways, it doesn't have to be ones and zeros. It doesn't have to be, it could just be light. It could be like lasers, or it could be some other way. It could be atoms interacting with each other in specific ways. And so I'm thinking that it could be possible to make robots that could think and have a brain that is artificial, but able to, based on some greater understanding that I don't think we currently have, because if we did, then we'd be able to do it. But, perhaps someday we may understand how a brain functions, or at the very least be able to create a true artificial brain. Now, as far as what I was thinking was, imagine if robots were used to create living spaces throughout outer space, and were able to colonize. And if that happened, if they were able to colonize this galaxy, let's say, it may even go beyond us, because they don't require food. Robots don't require food. They don't need, so it's easier. They're hardier than we are. And so in a way they can withstand pressures, and they're not completely indestructible, at least with current technology, right? But certainly they're hardier than we are, and so they would always be ahead. And because if they were self-replicating, they would be able to exponentially sort of be able to do things that perhaps in a much quicker way than we could ever do. And they would have all the time to do it. And perhaps they're, because they wouldn't eat, perhaps it would be more, the energy sources would be different. They would be able to acquire energy through maybe star. It's similar to how you would do solar panels, right? So it might be, like plants through photosynthesis and the way they acquire energy. So these are just some ideas that I thought, and I'm curious what you all think. So thank you for watching.